Okay guys, so now what we're going to look at is how we can create a blueprint character. So I'm just going to delete this one. So this one here is our default third person character. So when we go into it, has this sort of mouse control to look around, and when we press W it moves forward, S it moves backwards, and A and D it moves to left and right. So we're going to look at how we can set up those inputs and also how we can set up the character around it. Now we're not going to have animations in this one, it's just going to be sort of ice skating around, but it will at least get us to have the character controller all set up. So the first thing we're going to do is go down here, blueprint class, and we're going to select character, not actor or pawn for this one, but character, okay? So we're going to call this one BP underscore, I'm going to call it link because that's who it's sort of based on and everything. And then we sort of open up in here, and if we look in our viewport, we have a few things already included. One, it already has a skeletal mesh that we can activate and choose. It also has a character movement all in there and ready to go, and a capsule that can act as a sort of physics body, because as you saw with the other physics body, it was sort of halfway through it, so we don't want to use that. We want to use this one and have this be what's in charge of controlling all the physics. So first things we're going to do is we're going to go here to mesh, and on the left hand side, and then we're going to go all the way over here where it says skeletal mesh and says none, and we're going to choose our link. As you can see, he's a little bit too tall and in the wrong spot, so we're going to pull him down. Press R on the keyboard or click here and then scale him down just a bit, and then rotate him facing the same way that this blue arrow does just here. So we'll go compile. So later on we'll look at how to have an animation blueprint. At the moment we don't have one there, so we're just going to look at that a little bit later, but for now we just want to make sure that is there. The other thing we want to do is bring in a spring arm. Now a spring arm is what the camera is attached to. So this is determining how far away the camera on our third person character is going to be. So that is there, and then we need to attach a camera to it. Cool. And so now that is all there and ready to go. But we can't really put it in there just yet because we have to give it a few instructions on what this camera or what this character is going to do when we bring it into the level. Because at the moment it's just going to stand perfectly still. In fact, we can try and just do that now. There they are. I'm just going to delete this one here, and just with that one selected, if I want it to default to that, because it won't, it'll just default to the just explorer mode sort of thing. So if I select that character, go to details on the left hand side here, and I'm just going to search for possess, and I can see auto possess player is disabled, so we're going to switch that to player 0, and we're going to go with placed in world, and it's actually at the pawn position. And so instead of saying AI controlled, I'm going to change this to player controller. So now that should be there. Now when I press play, it is there, but I press W, ASD, I move my mouse, nothing happens because we haven't given it instructions on what to do yet. So if I go here to settings and project settings, by default the new version of Unreal should already have these inputs here. But if we click here on action mappings, there's a jump there, and then there's a move forward, move right, and turn. So if we go here to turn, we can see that's mouse X. If we go to look up, that's mouse Y. If we go to move forward, that's WS. And if we go to move right, that's here. So we could just go here into our blueprint and just put these keys in specifically. But what doing it here allows us to do is to actually make it so that if I plug in a gamepad or a motion controller or something else like that, it's already set up and ready to go. I don't need to worry about that. So we won't do anything here. This should already be in here. But here you'll notice on the side here we have a scale. Really all we need to do is look at those numbers there, the negative numbers. So we'll notice that W is 1 forward and S is 1 backwards, whereas A is -1 and D is +1. So we'll look at that a little bit later when we look at the animations, but just for now we just need to know that that's what they are doing. So we just need to remember those names: move forward, move right, turn, look up. Just going to minimize that. And we're going to go here into our event graph where we can actually start putting in some of those inputs. So I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to go move forward, and I can see here input, access events, move forward. And what I want to do is left click and pull this out to movement. So it's going to add input movement, add input movement right here. Okay, So it's looking for a bit of information here. So basically we've pressed it here and it's looking for a target, which is self. We can leave that there. It's looking for world direction and it's looking for a scale value. So remember when I was saying here about positive and negative? Well, that's what this is here. The axis value is just going to plug straight into there. So let's just play this just for now to see what happens, and then we'll look at why we add in other things in this to get this working correctly. So if I press play now and I press WASD, still nothing is happening. So it should be having something, but we need a bit more information in here. And first thing is going to be the world direction. So how do we actually get the direction? Well, we've got to think about what is forward. So forward is where the camera is facing, or the spring arm is facing. And what's good is that those things have data in them. They actually have some movement things. So when we move it and move forward here, the character will change direction and move there. So to do that, we're going to actually grab that spring arm and left click out of here, and we're going to grab some information from it. And that's going to be at socket rotation. So basically it's going to look at where it's rotating from and to, and then it's going to give us a vector value. Now the only problem is it's a vector here and a rotator here, so we need to first get that out as a vector. So there's two vectors that we're going to use for this. One's going to be called forward vector and the other one's going to be called right vector. So we're not going to do left vector or backwards vector because the plus and minus that's provided by this value should take care of that for us. So we're going to go out here and get forward vector and then plug that into here. And now, with any luck, that should work. And there we go. Can't move left or right or anything, but I can move backwards and forwards. So that's a start. Now let's look at how we can do the left and right strafing. So here we're going to go input axis again, and that's going to be the turn is the camera. We need, let's have a look what they have it as in here. Let's go to input and it's move right. There we go. So we're going to go here, move right, and there it is. And then we're going to do the exact same thing we did here with just a few differences. So I'm going to pull out here, input, movement, there we go. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. Oops. So copy and paste that down here, but I'm not going to use forward vector because this is moving left or right. So I'm going to go get right vector and then plug that in here and then plug this axis into here. So I'm going to compile, save, down here, press play, move forward, move there. Cool. So now we've already got this. Now we just need to make sure that the camera is actually turning so we can actually go in more than a few directions. So to do that, we're going to come down here and same thing. It's going to be turn. And this one's a lot easier. For this one, we're just going to go camera your add controller your. If you play a lot of flight sims, then this will be a lot easier. And look up is the other one. And this is add pitch input. And these ones we don't need to worry about the rotation because it's just always taking from its own input there. So save, play, and there we go. So I'm able to look and move forward. That's good. But you'll notice that I can't look up yet, and that's because we've got to change a few things about this character movement here, and that is to do with the your use character rotation. Let's check that. Compile, play. Yep, and there we go. So now I can look up and down and left and right and move around like so. Cool, so that's all I wanted to look at this lesson. It's, you know, it looks still a bit weird and everything, unless you want to make a Tony Hawk's game or something else like that. But yeah, we are just going to stop this video here, and then we'll continue looking at how we can put the animations in, so rather than ice skating around all the place, when we move, the walk and run animations will play. So I'll see you then.